Hey, it's Videobob. I was down here in my garage and I had both of the Rolls-Royces in here. My 1985 Corniche and my 1967 Silver-Shadow. I got a fellow coming over to look at the Shadow today and I put it in the garage. And I don't think I've ever had these two cars side by side like this. This is a 1985. It's a 1967. This is a four-door saloon Silver-Shadow made by Rolls-Royce in Crewe. But this is a Corniche made by Mulliner Park Ward, which is a subsidiary of Rolls-Royce, but made in a different factory, I believe. Still learning all the intricacies of the two cars. But I'm amazed at the things that are the same and the things that are different. Cobweb there. The things that's the same is this oil puddle. Even though these are two different completely hydraulic systems. This one runs on mineral oil and this one runs on .3 RR363.3. But just starting from the front, looking at the differences between 1967, which this car started in 1965, and the 1985. These front markers, exactly the same. These headlight surrounds, almost exactly the same, with the exception this car was a European-made car that included these headlight washers, but these are just added into the bezel. And there would have potentially been a brush that would brush off the lights here, but that's been either not installed or removed. The grills, the cascading waterfall grill and Spirit of Ecstasy, appear to be exactly the same to me and interchangeable. I don't really see a difference. Maybe there is. Maybe there is. This, you know what, this looks like it's a little thinner here. And then this one looks to be slightly thicker, but I could be imagining that. The bumpers. This has, starting after 1973, I believe is when it was, they went to these 5-mile-an-hour bumpers. I have a 73 Corniche out in the garage that we could look at. And I think that's when that started. But underneath this little removable piece of plastic is a spring shock. And this bumper would allow you to tap something at 5 miles an hour unharmed. Whereas this one is fixed. This is a fixed chrome bumper, which is much more elegant and beautiful. Also notice these intakes here in the front that are not present here on this car. Here's some differences I'm seeing with the Silver-Shadow and the Corniche. On the Silver-Shadow, this indentation is made inside. It's going inside. Whereas on this car, it's outside. It's beveled out about maybe ½ inch. Very interesting. This car having a chrome side trim that runs down the body line because you have a single body line. Notice how, if I'm looking straight down there, this flow goes all the way down the tail. Whereas the Corniche, one of its signature traits is what they call the Coke bottle. These haunches on the hips over the rear wheels add this extra little bit of sex, right? Ooh, look at the sexy hips on this girl. Love to watch her walk away, right? See how this comes down on the Silver-Shadow, very flat. Almost like a Volvo. This slopes in, right? This is coming back. Sexy. You're losing a little bit of trunk space there. This has a much larger trunk. I should say boot for my British friends. Now these cars are about the same length. I don't have them parked in the exact same spot. This being an 85, you've got these rear markers not present on the 67. Door handles appear to be the same. Just slightly different. This door handle comes in and it goes to a much sharper point. This one, not so much. But pretty much the same. You'll notice the thick chrome. This is actually brass that's been chromed, as I understand. And even though that this is a convertible, This is done a little different because this has this edge here that meets with this to give it a nice seal. The window's not up all the way. But the way this comes together, they both have the same type of door system, this latch, where it fits inside of this mechanism here. You also have, well, these armrests aren't present in that car because it's different, but if I were to open this and this, don't let them touch. This is hard to do with one hand. Okay. Just trying to demonstrate that these both have the exact same door closure system, unchanged, I think, through the entire run. Strange, this car has these high-mounted fender markers there, and then this one does not, but it's because they've been moved down here to this front corner. Looking at the top bonnet covers, I'd say they're probably interchangeable. I don't see a difference at all. Probably the same bonnet and piece of trim. Windshields, I think maybe are the same. I don't know. I see this one has a corner. This one has a bend. This one has a sharp edge. I can't tell you whether or not those are the same windshields or not. And maybe it's just the mounting. Also notice the windshield wipers on this car are set up to this direction. This one opposite. So which one would be configured for right-hand drive? Maybe this car, I'm trying to think, that would be, most left-hand car drives I've seen. So it would appear that this car, these windshield wipers are set up for right-hand drive. Or am I wrong about that? Maybe it's opposite. I'm not sure. Somebody can maybe answer that question. The mirrors. On this car, you have body colored, full 4x6 electric mirrors. This car, all you got was this little round one. And I stuck this cheapy $5 little convex mirror on there because this mirror you couldn't see anything but your own fender. And there's no mirror on the other side. However, there's so much glass in this car, you just swivel your little head around and look out the back. That's what they figure. You don't need a window. Interior very close to the same, but you'll notice, if we get into the interior, before we get to the dash, let's look at the doors. This door, you have this adjustable armrest here. It goes up and down. The way these work is there's a button and it goes up and down. It's really hard to move though. I'm not gonna move it. There's a door pocket, window switches, driver's side window, passenger side window, driver's rear, passenger's rear, door locks, handle to get out, vent window. Let's go around to this side and you'll look at how the 85 is configured. Very different door. Not crazy different. Pocket back here, same adjustable armrest, interchangeable with that other one. But now you got a door handle here, door locks, forward and back. Mirror control, same windows, but in this car you have a bar. Have a drink while you're driving. Suggested by Rolls-Royce, have a nip. All right, we'll go ahead and look at the dash of this car. On the later cars, I'm not sure what year they did this, they moved this ignition module over here. And here's the interesting thing, because I've worked on these cars, there's a couple of screws that hold this dash in. There's a screw there, screw there. You take out, what, 3 screws, and this whole thing comes out. And every single one of these is a separate module. This is a separate module, separate. This is one piece. This is one big square piece that's facaded to look round. These are digital gauges that they started doing, and not well received. People don't really like it. Down here, this button, which is the same as your window buttons, is a control that does the up and down of your top. These are your mirrors. And this is a lockout. I forget exactly what it locks. I think it locks, what does it lock? I think it locks the rear controls of windows and things. I think that's what that does. On that car over there, we're going to show you here, you know, where the core is for the air conditioner. They have a door that you can just open and close, but this is just open and you can close it that way. Here, you're not going to see the traditional organ pulls like that's on every Rolls-Royce, even my Phantom, because they went with this automated system here. This automated system, when you turn it on, based on your temperature, how much blue and how much red you have, will decide how much the blending door and how much power it will give to the fan, low, medium, or high. Well, you have low, medium, high. You have low, you have high, you have auto. When you put it on auto, it will self-regulate that. Something interesting that I learned is that when the top goes down, it automatically turns off the air conditioning system, unless you hit this button fascia. So if you have a Corniche and you have the top down and the AC doesn't work or the heater doesn't work, the reason is because if it's in the auto mode, it will automatically turn it off. You can override it by hitting fascia, and then it will turn this on. Learned that the hard way. You have panel dimmer here, wiper controls here. So it in many ways very similar, but in other ways very different. This is a magnetic phone mount I controversially mounted here, very solid. And I put this ball punt stereo in. On the older cars, the stereo, this was reversed. The stereo was down here. I've seen some cars where they put the radio here. There's no center console here, which I wish there was. I mean, there's a small console here, but I wish this went all the way through, because traditionally in this area, on the later Corniches, this is where they put the speakers, right? And you're gonna see in the 67 how that was done on this car. It's very hot today. It's Las Vegas, 110 degrees, slightly less in the garage maybe. Very hot inside this car, oh my gosh. So they tried to simulate what I was just talking about. Somebody put in these side covers and put these speakers here, which are quite effective. And I probably should have done that on the other car. But here, the center console is very different. These are seat controls. And then I don't get the point of this, but this goes like this, or it drops down. Makes no point. That's the original Motorola radio, but another radio was added underneath it. Not very well done. But this door opens and just allows direct access to your heater AC core. And it'll blow either heat or cold air right through there. Here is your fan control. And then a very kind of complicated system for this. You can turn it to the left for cold, turn it to the right for hot, middle is off, and then you can pull it out in 3 different stages that are different levels of volume. And then you have these organ pulls that open and close. Actually, if you look deep inside there, you could probably see it actually doing its thing. Clock here in the center. Now, they have that same module that was over here in the corner, they've got it here. But all of these are separate modules. So they're probably all technically interchangeable with that car over there, just in different positions. Gotta remember, this car's much older and has about 10 or more thousand miles on that car. But so many similarities. Even my 2006 Phantom has these same vents and these same pulls. Very much the same. The garage is closing. Let me, the alarm's going off. Walk out here and trigger it. There we go. As far as the trunks go, I have a battery charger in there. You have the jack. Over in this area is where your battery is, behind that cover. And I don't believe there's anything under this, except access to the fuel. Yeah, there's nothing under there. On the Corniche. Oh, you know what? I think that little switch locks it out. I must have locked it. Let me get the key. By the way, we'll talk about the keys of these cars. There we go. Now, got some junk in here. This is the parade boot. Much, much smaller trunk and a battery cutoff switch, which I keep forgetting to turn off. This side you have the jack. There's a full spare under the car. And you pull this up and you have the same access, but much smaller. Nicely lined. You have two keys. You have a round key and a square key. One key, the square key usually, is the master key. And that master key will work on every lock in the car. Such as, you know, this little thing here, your glove box. In some cases, yeah, even this bar has a lock. And the other key is the valet key, which is a different slot on it. And will only access the ignition and nothing else. So the idea for that was you give the valet that key, and he can't access the bar. He can't get to your 8-ball in here, your liquor in there, your your pistol, whatever you're hiding in your Rolls-Royce. Let's get under the bonnet. Now, of course, we're not going to talk about the convertible top of this car because it's just not comparable. Completely different apples and oranges. This car being a 1985, slightly larger engine, and it was brought to my attention that, as I've told you, this was a gray market car imported into the USA from a European country. Because by 1985, this would have been a fuel-injected car with a Bosch Jetronic fuel injection. This has what I believe is called the Solex carburetor. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's the name of it. I need to adjust this a bit because this is loose and I need to tighten it. Probably just this needs to be tightened. Let's see. I'll play with this later. Anyway. But very, very different hydraulic system. Gary Mavericks just did a video on this thing. This uses a mineral oil. That's why there's all these warnings. Because for so many years it used a .3 system. I forget the exact, I'm sure one of the Rolls-Royce know-it-alls will come in and tell me the exact cubic centimeters of this engine. I want to say it's like 6.75 or 6.73, something like that. But it's a V8. It's basically the same engine, but just a little bit bigger. But let's take a look under the, I don't know if this one's loose. Let me open it. I'm trying to do this as one continuous long shot. No edits. One big shot. Hoping the foam doesn't overheat because it's about 110 today. Pretty hot. Very traditional. These are the twin SUs, as I believe they're called. This is that .3 system. It uses an RR363. This has been rebuilt. Leaky bastard that it is. We've replaced that little blender down there for the heat and cold. And I've seen a lot of people just put like a faucet, some kind of petcock on that, you know, for the winter time. We've also redone the air conditioner. That's not the original air conditioning compressor or hoses. But it's amazing to me, you know, how much they don't change these things. They use this same engine for, what, 20-something years? And it's because it's reliable. I've never seen one of these that wouldn't start. You can always get one of these engines to start. And the transmissions, which are GM transmissions, no problem. It's all this stuff that's leaky. On this car, we've done a tremendous amount of work. Just replaced the water pump on it. This little pop-off steam valve, as it's known, which is a thermostat that is the overflow return. So rather than have an overflow bottle that recovers, it just spews it out onto the ground if it gets too hot. So on this car, you do need to check your temperature often, or check your coolant level often. But it'll give you a light to let you know. This sensor here will detect whether or not there's fluid in that tank, and if there's not, you'll get a light. So I just replaced that, and that turned out to be a problem because I had no idea that this valve had rusted open, and I was just constantly dripping my coolant out of this and losing coolant. I couldn't figure out why and where. Turned out it was that valve, which is difficult to get, easy to install, hard to get. Cost several $100s. But this is a solid car. This is a car that you can park for like a year and it will fire up instantaneously. I'm telling you, there's something about these carburetors and this engine that's just rock solid. However, what will fail is your hydraulic brake system. Dot 3 is a very acidic, caustic material. You pour it on your paint, it'll take the paint off. You know, it's not good stuff. So the seals that this runs through, it will just eat it up. And the best thing you could do is just drive it as much as possible. That's the best advice I could give for any Rolls-Royce runner. This puddle of oil here is the symptom of letting this car sit for about 6 weeks. In July and August in Las Vegas, we had the hottest summer on our recorded history record of 120 degrees for like a week or more straight. And I wasn't taking this car out. I wasn't going to subject it to that heat. Even though it has air conditioning, it just isn't going to handle 120 degrees. Maybe it would, but I just didn't want to risk it. I drove my modern car. And I let it sit here, and I didn't drive the car for about 6 weeks. And I came down here, and the car had leaked out about a quart of its green fluid. And what we determined had happened is that as the suspension settled and it lowered, because I had overfilled the tanks over here, and this garage is at a slope towards, there's a drain in the middle, okay? So what had happened is, because this was overfilled, and as it slowly lowered over the course of a few weeks, it overfilled, or the thing, and it overflowed, and excess went down onto the ground. Because I've looked and there's no leaks. There's no leaks under there. And after cranking it up, adding more fluid to it and watching it rise and driving it around for a bit, I found that it had no leak. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is, if you let a Rolls-Royce sit for any amount of time, new or old, you're asking for trouble. If you own one of these cars and you get it into good running condition and you want to keep it that way, start it frequently. Drive it frequently, at least once a week. Go out there and run it up to temperature, run it for 20, 30 minutes, run it half out of gas, and then go fill it up again. Because the bad gas is the #1 thing that'll cause you problems and heartache. Unless you can get a hold of some pure gasoline that doesn't have ethanol in it. I always put additive in my gasoline. I always put a little octane booster and some stable and whatnot. The gum out is always good, but I always add additive to it because, matter of fact, if I can show you, if it says, let me open up the fuel door here. This is interesting. It says here, 100 octane fuel. Now in Las Vegas that's available, but that's considered race gas. They wanted you to run this on 100 octane, which is not something you're going to find. So to supplement that, get octane booster and put it in your engine. So every time I fill up, I put a can of octane booster and also the gum out tune-up in a can, or the Berryman's Chem Tool. Sometimes a little mystery oil. Because that's what these cars like. That's what they want. This car, being slightly more modern, was designed to run on unleaded gasoline. It doesn't have such a warning on the back. It has the fuel door in a completely different place on a completely different side. Where is it? Is it here? You can only operate that door when the car's off and not running. I can't read what this says here. It's gone now. But I always put in, always lube this, by the way. See that? Make sure that's lube. I always put in fuel additive because the car's happier when you do that. Somebody mentioned in one of my other videos about this car, there's the garage again. Somebody mentioned in one of my other videos that they heard a ticking noise. There are 2 hydraulic pumps on this car that operate the suspension and hydraulics. And you'll hear that ticking sound until the car gets to full pressure. And then it goes, see, it went away already. You do not hear the ticking sound. I just wanted to point that out to the person who kept making that comment. Right? It went away as soon as it gets to pressure. okay? It's not the engine, it's not the lifters, it's not a valve, okay? The hydraulic pumps of these cars, the car runs weird. That right there is a big deal. For those of you who watch the videos of this car, I spent about $4,000 rebuilding each of these doors, windows. The window motor, there's a lock, there's a huge mechanism behind there. To be able to do that right there is a big deal. Most of these cars, the windows don't work. Most of them. Just pointing that out. My light is on there. Watch what happens though. It'll go away. Just rev it up a little. Did you hear the pump ticking? Matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it. If I rev it up, well, it's already done it. You can see the car move. You'll see it rise up as you give it a little extra push. But see, now it's idling clean. There's a little hole in the muffler you can hear, but there's no ticking sound. I just want to point that out. Now you're hearing the electric fans that we've added. We added those electric fans. Now I've noticed on this car, these are Smith's gauge. Watch this. I want to show you something. The car's almost 60 years old, guys. That gauge always sticks. I can feel the car leveling. I'm tilting towards the right. I feel the car leveling because it's feeling my weight and it's adjusting for my weight, which is telling me I need to lose some weight. Let me turn this off. What a car, right? Car's 57, 58 years old now. What a car, right? People are like, oh, what a money pit. These cars are money pits. Bro, I don't think you understand what you're looking at here. This car is completely hand-formed. It's a hand-built car. You'll notice there's no seams. Like there's no fender line here. Like, look at this. This car's one piece. This is not bolted on. This door is bolted on, but this is one piece of car. All the way down. It's a completely solid vehicle. There's no more solid built car than the Rolls-Royce. Unbelievable car. I mean, this car being from 1985, 40 years old, with, what has it got on here? What is it? 75,000 miles. Not a lot, really. What a car. What a car. All right, guys, that's my tour of the two cars. I'm not sure what I left out. I mean, I probably could have gone into every little intricacy. I didn't go into the back seat of this car, but, you know, I didn't really show you the back seat of the Silver-Shadow either. I guess I will. Let me go ahead and extend this another minute or so. In the back of this car, you have a footrest. All right, let's get back here. Every car has an ashtray. Have to close that. And this is where you would have your lunch. Pardon me, but do you have any Grey Poupon? When I refinished these, I added these gold R's and things. Everybody gets a cigarette lighter. Everybody needs a smoke. Hi. Turn this on. Hi. Headliners, amazing. Jeeves, could we stop by the haberdashery? Of course. I wish it were not 100 in hell in here. It's so hot. It's so hot. Back of this car, let's have a look. This, sometimes it doesn't work. You have to press this button And it's supposed to release. There it goes. The front. Now, I got a phone charger there. I don't know if I can get my big ass in here with the top up and hold the phone. Oh my gosh. It's not nearly as roomy as the other one. Same headliner. It's not bad back here, actually, you know. I mean, you got your cigarette lighter and your little smoky spot and a place to turn on the lights. But this is a car to be driven, not be driven in. It's amazing to me, like, you know, this top works really quickly. And like I said, we're not doing a demonstration of the top and how it goes together, but that's a different video. But many similarities. Now, you've got a lot less room. It's weird that the car's the same size, and yet there's so much less room. But it's because where the trunk was and where you'd be sitting is back here where the top fits, if you understand. All right, let me get out of here. Oh boy, sorry for the bad camera work, but oh my gosh. So again, yeah, the area where you would normally be sitting back here is where you're hiding this top. Okay. All right, I think that concludes a tour of the difference between the Silver-Shadow and the Corniche. Bear in mind, that there are what they call the fixed head versions of the Corniche in a two-door. So the same configuration, but as a hard top, two-door. Not to be confused with the James Young version of the car that was available as a two-door. James Young being a separate coach manufacturer that went out of business because they just couldn't keep up with Mulliner Park Ward, or when Mulliner and Park Ward merged together and then were acquired by Rolls-Royce as a subdivision. So the cars that are made in crew by Rolls-Royce, I'm not going to say not as good, but not as sexy. The premium that you paid to get the Corniche over this Silver-Shadow was significant, maybe twice as much. This is a car you're talking about that in 1985 you could have bought this car or a decent house. Not a rich man's house, but a nice middle-class house for the same amount of money probably as you would have paid for a convertible Corniche, a handmade Corniche. Probably took them 3 months to build this car or more. Had to wait for this car. And it was a rare privilege to get one of these. And I think over the course of the however 20 plus year run, they made maybe 10,000 of them. I'm not sure exactly how many, or a few thousand of them. I could be really wrong about that. I need to look at the numbers. I'm sure one of the know-it-alls will correct me. There's so many things that we could point out the differences in these two cars. But I'm a very privileged and very thankful person to have been able to own two such amazing cars. If you love this content, if this is your first time seeing this channel, go to my channel, subscribe, and go to the search button and put in Rolls-Royce, and you're gonna find videos that I've done for years about these cars, my 1973 Corniche project that we're working on with Gary Mavers, and also my 2006 Phantom, and then the 2004 Phantom I had before that. So since 2018, 2019, I've been making videos about Rolls-Royces, and I thank you very much for watching this very long, wordy video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you appreciate these beautiful, wonderful British cars as much as I do. Thank you for watching on Videobob.